On the 15th of May 2012, I typed Sussex Police Commissioner into Google. The list of relevant pages found and ranked by Google started with the two on screen, which provide the basis for this video. I selected the first. On screen is part of that page, at the bottom of which was Sussex Police Authority's address. The opening sentence is puzzling. As the future office of the Sussex Police and Crime Commissioner, we cannot endorse or support any one candidate over another. Who are we? And what right do we have to run the highest ranked web page on this subject? The future office cannot be the authority, which will have disappeared. So who are we? When the Commissioner has taken over, will it be a case of plus ça change? Are the salaried staff expecting to continue as usual? According to the Home Office publication, Police and Crime Commissioners, Have You Got What It Takes? Under the subheading The Team, the would-be Commissioner is told, you will need to appoint a Chief Executive who will employ administrative staff and will have a monitoring role to ensure that standards are upheld. You will also appoint a Chief Finance Officer to advise on financial matters and the impact of spending decisions. It is to be hoped that the Commissioner does not just uncritically accept the current team. In a Police Authority inspection report dated the 17th of June 2010, Her Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabulary rated Sussex Police Authority as Grade 2, on a scale with Grade 4 at the top. The current Chief Executive, Welch, is just a temporary stand-in. His predecessor, Godfrey, clerk to the authority from 2003, Chief Executive from 2007, retired last year. The authority decided not to advertise for a replacement as the end of the authority was imminent, so Godfrey's deputy was appointed for the interim. This second page of some 124,000 pages that Google claimed to have found seems to contradict the first, though it does not do so explicitly. The first page had said, we cannot endorse or support any one candidate over another. The second page from the same Sussex PCC website as the first gives prominence to one of the candidates for 14.5 minutes. The first paragraph says, this site aims to give you all the information you will need to learn more about the changes to police accountability. But it also invites you to watch videos of the speakers at our recent conference. The recent conference took place on the 18th of November 2011, which was practically 6 months ago. On the 20th of April, the Argus Online ran a story about would-be police commissioners and said, in total, at least 21 people are already understood to be vying for the role. These included Godfrey Daniel, Peter Jones and Steve Waite. The Police Federation website only listed 10, but also included these 3. The Home Office document, Police and Crime Commissioners, Have You Got What It Takes? States that you cannot stand for election as a PCC if you are a public servant, including employees of councils within the force area, or members of a police authority. Daniel, Jones and Waite are members of Sussex Police Authority. Each hopes to be chosen by the political party to which he belongs. Both parties involved are, I think, intending to ballot members. When the results are announced, 2 of these 3 could be both a candidate and a member of the authority. Are they going to abandon the sinking ship before the votes are counted? The authority member promoted on the Sussex PCC web page is Waite. Of his 14.5-minute speech, I'm reproducing the opening and a couple of extracts which present a metaphor for the way in which police are held accountable, as a sample of Waite's knowledge and understanding of the subject. The video is about accountability.
Thanks, Dan. First, I've just got to, yeah, I can be heard, so that's important. Put my watch down just to make sure I don't run over time. But I'm going to start off actually by breaking with tradition. Those of you who attend these meetings will know that it's usually the Chief Constable who stands up here first, and he gives you a footballing anecdote. Well, I've decided that I'm not going to do that today, although that's primarily because I'm a supporter of Portsmouth Football Club. So actually I don't really know anything about football. So I'll move straight into an area that I do know something about, which is the police authority and policing. Before looking forward, I think it's useful to actually look back and see how we've got to where we are and then where we're going in the future. And from my own personal perspective, I joined the police authority in 2005. And one of the things that hit me, and it was almost literally hit me quite hard when I arrived, was the impact of the 2002 Police Reform Act, which was, in my view, and I think in many people's views, the pinnacle of Home Office and Home Secretary influence over policing. And that Act, many of you will know, introduced the National Policing Plan with statutory targets and also gave the Home Secretary power to dismiss Chief Constables. So when I arrived on the police authority, thinking that it was actually the police authority that did that job, I found out very quickly that there was something called, and it's the tripartite agreement, but it's called amongst authorities, for reasons that I don't really understand, the three-legged stool.
I can tell you why. This is not the first time that I've heard a police authority member, prompted by a combination of ignorance and an overinflated sense of self-importance, trot out this ridiculous metaphor for policing, a three-legged stool on which no one sits. The Chief Constable is responsible for Sussex policing. The Sussex Police Authority is supposed to appoint the Chief Constable, plan strategy and monitor the work of the force. The Home Office, acting for Parliament, has overall responsibility for the police. The three have different functions and are not of equal importance, so comparing them to three legs of a stool is absurd. Police authority members use the metaphor to indulge in the delusion that they are on a par with Parliament.
And it's particularly strange because the three legs you would think would be the same length, but they're not. Very clearly the Home Secretary and the Home Office leg was very much longer and more influential than that of the Chief Constables, who was longer and more influential than that of the police authorities. So when I came onto the authority, I found that we were very much on the short leg, so to speak.
Why were you so ignorant? In June 2001, before the Police Act of 2002, the Home Secretary, following the failure of Sussex Police Authority to perform its subordinate role adequately, had to suggest to the authority that the Chief Constable should be sacked.
And that when dealing with the Chief Constable, he understandably had one and a half eyes really on the Home Secretary and the Home Office, and the other half on the police authority, because of the statutory requirement of that type of policing model. Effectively, that meant that most targets were set nationally, and that's just something I think is worth bearing in mind, that that's the position that we've had up to very recently.
This is currently in a prominent place on the police authority website. I believe that the authority has set the strategic direction of policing in Sussex for years. Wait has not finished with the stool.
Also, and I want to go back now to talking about the targets, when I talked about the national targets being set. When the Police and Crime Commissioner comes into place, they will effectively set the targets for Sussex Police. The legs on the tripartite stool have changed. Now they've almost reversed, in that the Commissioner will hold the majority of the target setting powers, and central government will take very much a back seat in the way that forces operate.
A stool only has one seat. We now seem to be in a car. To give you some sense of the role of the person in the back seat, I'll quote the Policing Protocol Order 2011, paragraph 28. The Home Secretary is ultimately accountable to Parliament and charged with ensuring the maintenance of the Queen's peace within all force areas, safeguarding the public and protecting our national borders and security. The Home Secretary has reserved powers and legislative tools that enable intervention and direction to all parties if it is determined by the Home Secretary that such action is necessary in order to prevent or mitigate risk to the public or national security.
So there's been a very fundamental switch around in the way that targets for the police will be set and indeed assessed by the Commissioner and the structure below the Commissioner. I think that's raised a concern that probably hadn't really come to the front previously, and that was around, well, if local commissioners are setting local targets, how in tune will they be with national issues?
The Police and Crime Commissioner's Have You Got What It Takes document, under the subheading National Policing, tells would-be commissioners, as well as ensuring that the Chief Constable responds to local priorities, you will also need to help contribute to dealing with threats which require a national policing response. It is vital that you work with other forces on national policing issues, including work on counter-terrorism and organised crime, as required by the Home Secretary. From several years watching webcasts of this authority, the only subject I remember Waite speaking on is money. We'll end with the only thing I ever remember him saying, on October the 23rd, 2008.
My take on this, a precept increase in the order of 4.5 to 4.9 range would be appropriate